Hey, how's it going? It's your boy, Moriarty, Challenger Coach, here to bring you yet another video where we're going to go over some unpopular strategies or picks that are able to climb to Challenger with ease and teach you how to play it. This time around, we got something a little bit special. We're going to be looking at the growing popularity of Hecarim top lane. Hecarim top was a thing in the past due to how strong he was during the laning phase, his roaming potential, and his ability to snowball and kill a backline on his own. But lately, was really only used as a pocket HR's counter pick by C9 Licorice as he fell off after his nerfs to his Q and then wasn't really seen again until recently. The reason he's back into the meta, besides some buffs to his R, is that he's got two new setups that allow him to just crush solo queue right now. The first one is the ones that pros like Bwipo or most notably Werlip have been testing out, which includes going Trinity into Death's Dance, big surprise, as the most consistent setup which allows Hecarim to easily win sustained fights and survive during the teamfight phase. You also have two powerful cheese plays with this version as you go Ignite to win the laning phase while also taking TP, which for Hecarim is just absurd. You got that increased movement speed from the teleport buffs and after he responds in the early game, making him one of the best TP users in the game, mostly because of the fact that he gets extra AD for how much movement speed he gets. The second version of this build is from a high-ranking challenger Renekton god, Romanium, turned Hecarim top main this season. Let me tell you, this guy has perfected the art of cheesing people early on with this pick and has his own unique setup for doing so. He prefers taking Ghost Ignite while also taking Celerity and Nimbus Cloak for the ultimate chase down potential during the laning phase. But not only that, his item choices are a bit unique as he chooses to go Trinity Force into Frozen Heart and then Spirit Visage in most of his games, which is a little odd as it overcaps on his CDR. But this has been seen before. The truly interesting tech that he uses that almost no other Hecarim player uses and is one of the keys to his success during late game team fights is that he actually builds Liandry's on Hecarim top lane, which is pretty genius as Hecarim is a consistent damage champion who can easily apply in an AoE around him, giving him massive AoE teamfight DPS so that his damage does not fall off in the late game compared to other Hecarim players. So now that you have kind of a general idea of the builds, let's go over how to use them and you can see which one you like more. For the first setup, which I'm just going to call the Werlip because, not because he invented it or anything like that, but just because I needed something to reference it in the video. Starting items will be Corrupting Potion, and then your first recall, you're going to go tier 2 boots, either Tubbies or Mercs based on your matchup. For your core items, it's going to be Trinity Force and Death's Dance. For your full build, it's going to be Starrock, Spirit Visage, and Randuin's follow-up. Now for situational items, you can throw in things like Dead Man's Plate, a Thorn Mail, Righteous Glory if you need better engage, Mortal Reminder if you need healer reduction, or even a GA. For the second setup, the Romanium, your starting item will also be a Corrupting Potion. Your first recall will actually be a Phage, or you're going to grab tier 1 boots and then Phage components if you don't have enough money. For your core items, you're going to go Trinity Force and a Frozen Heart. For your full build, the follow-up is going to be a Spirit Visage, Liandry's, and a Thorn Mail. Situational items include Dead Man's Plate, Mortal Reminder, and sometimes for some reason he goes Wit's End. If you're having trouble choosing which style you want to go for, the stats actually slightly favor the Death's Dance second, so consider that. Looking at the two different rune setups, Werlip likes to go kind of a standard Conqueror setup with Tenacity, Last Stand, and then Inspiration secondary for better all-ins and extra base mana. It's pretty much the standard for Hecarim. Romanium, on the other hand, ever the hipster, likes to take Presence of Mind and Sorcery secondary for some special tactics in the early game with Nimbus Cloak and Celerity. Once again though, in terms of the stats, it's actually slightly in favor of Inspiration with being way more popular and a slightly better win rate, so I would potentially go with that, although Presence of Mind is better than Triumph, so you can kind of check that out. Although one thing you should remember about these stats is they could be a little skewed by people not also going Ghost Ignite while taking Sorcery secondary, so just keep that in mind. As for the level sequence, both of them go QWE for their first 3 levels and then they max Q and then E, and the stats actually agree with this as well. For the summoner spells, Werlip prefers Ignite and Teleport. The standard for Hecarim top for the years is pretty much this setup, and it got even better with the TP buff, so I would highly recommend this one. Romanium, on the other hand, prefers Ignite Ghost because it's stronger in the early game, it lets you all in, and it also helps you escape ganks better because when you're eased down, you're kind of gonna die. And it can also give you a boost during the mid-game teamfight phase as well as when you're split pushing. The stats will lean towards Ignite TP as it's far more popular, but there is a slightly higher win rate on Ghost, but significantly lower sample size, so the more consistent option, like I mentioned before, is going to be that TP. Although I should mention, if you just suck at using Teleport or just hate taking it, then Ghost is more than viable. Moving on down to the power spike section, because they're playing the same section, they're going to have the same power spikes. He's going to be pretty strong at level 1 due to the consistent damage, but you're going to have to be a little bit careful because you don't actually have flash and you can be ganked pretty easily early on, so just be aware of that. This concept goes the same for level 2 as well. He's actually very strong in terms of all-ins during the level 3 to level 5 phase, and then he begets an amazing kill potential at level 6 with his ultimate. The next spike is going to be level 9 when his Q's max, and then after that it's going to be level 13 when his E is max. He doesn't actually spike around his ultimate that much because the CC duration doesn't really change. He's not really relying on the damage that it brings to kill people. In terms of item spikes, both setups are going to spike on the tier 2 boot completion, the Trinity Force completion as his best power spike in the game, and then also on his second item. Hecarim in general starts to fall off after that in terms of items, and the mid game is where he's strongest, so take advantage of that. Next up, let's go over some of his matchups. He's strong into champions who will struggle to deal with his consistent damage and healing while not being able to run away from him. Things like Aurelia, Yasuo, Aatrox, and Ornn. Aurelia and Yasuo require waves specifically for their mobility and aren't that tanky, so Hecarim can just all in them and then they can't really do anything about it because none of his damage is really dodgeable and they can't outplay it with their kit, so they just die. Yasuo is actually super easy for Hecarim because he literally can't win while anything. It must suck to have to deal with that matchup. Aatrox on the other hand struggles to space the first two Qs while Hecarim is just nailing him with his Qs, which are way faster CD, and then the third Q, Hecarim tends to have the moves speed to just dodge it and then continue on and win the sustained damage fight. Ornn, funny enough, just gets run down completely by Hecarim. He cannot deal with the consistent damage that's coming out of that champion, and even if Ornn tries to, set up a gank or use his ultimate, it gets completely negated by Hecarim ult, which you can use the fear to negate the recast, or you can just kind of go unstoppable by the way and just escape. So if you're looking for an Ornn counter, Hecarim actually does really well. His bad matchups on the other hand are into champions who don't have to run from him because they just beat him into head-to-head all-ins. Things like Kled, Darius, Wukong, Alawi. He just can't ever fight these champions in melee range, and if he's not in melee range, he can't really do anything, so why'd you even pick Hecarim? On the plus side, even in bad matchups, Hecarim top lane has really good wave clear, and so you can actually just push your lane and look to roam with your ultimate, which is a viable option. Alright, so in this section, we're gonna go over some combos and tips and tricks to play Hecarim. First up, the combos. He doesn't actually have any, because his Q does not interrupt auto attacks, meaning you don't really have to think too much about it. In terms of tricks though, you can actually insect people by using your E and then R'ing behind them to kick them back from under tower or into your team. You can also use your E on a minion as the duration is ending, and it can help gain distance when you're trying to escape. One kind of neat mind game that you can do is when you're flanking, if someone flashes your E kick, then you kind of send them too far for you to catch up and you're likely not going to get the kill. So instead what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click right next to them in a straight line and walk into melee range. Then you're going to want to spam Q. This will likely cause them to flash at a habit instead of reaction, and then you can just loop back around behind them or ult behind them to knock them back into the proper direction. One thing that's really cool is Hecarim E can actually charge through smaller terrain. You can try it out yourself. Also, one thing that people forget about Hecarim W is that the heal is from all damage dealt within the circle. This includes damage from your teammates or even things like Baron, so keep this in mind when trying to get max value from the healing during a team fight. Try to time with any wombo combos. And the last tip, you're going to want to stack your Q on minions before trying to all in whenever possible, as it greatly increases your damage potential as you won't need to ramp it up for the reduced CD and extra damage. For this next section though, we're going to talk about how to succeed as Hecarim top during the laning phase and what you'll need to do to transition in the mid to late game. First up for the laning phase though, you're going to try and set up a very cheesy surprise level 4 all in, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. And this play pattern is what specifically lets Romanian snowball so consistently and is a very good set play. First up, you'll want to poke a bit on your first 2 levels, but the most important thing here is to let the lane push towards you by level 3. You specifically want the wave to be on your side of the map by this point in time so that you can get the maximum chase down potential and use your consistent damage to the best of your ability. If you can actually let the wave push into you, it's perfect if you're able to let the cannon wave hit the tower, as this will build up a slow push close to your side. Now once that's done, what you want to do is start using your Q to poke or kill minions to stack it up. Then you're going to walk towards the minion that's going to let you kill to hit level 4, and you're going to Q to kill it and then all in. This all in is the bread and butter of Hecarim top lane and is what's going to let you snowball consistently and get solo kills during the laning phase. When doing this all in, you'll want to attempt to get into range without having to use your E if possible. Then you're going to ignite, pop your potions early, and fight, and you're likely going to win, and then you can use your E to chase after them if they try and flash away. This works so often. But even if you can't pull this off, the fundamental principle of laning as Hecarim is get the wave on your side of the map so you can chase them down. Then you're also going to want to stack that Q up on minions before you all in whenever possible to get that consistent damage to win fights. And once you're level 6, you can even look for tower dives by kicking them out from under tower. During the mid game, it's Hecarim's strongest point in the game, so you want to take full advantage with this by attending as many fights as you can. Do not prioritize farming over fights, although of course you're still going to want to farm. Just remember, you want to show up to as many fights as you can. If no fights are happening, you'll want to push out side lanes as you're both really fast at it and you're pretty safe. Then once you're done, you're going to want to farm neutral monsters like if you were a jungler and rinse repeat until you can find a flank on a mid-game teamfight. It's pretty straightforward. Next up, as Hecarim, teamfighting is pretty simple. You're pretty awful at peeling, so your main objective is to find a flank and destroy the enemy backline. When entering the fight though from a flank, you really only have one choice to make, and it's whether you're going to lead with E or your ultimate. When you lead with your ultimate, it gives you a huge CC of around 2 seconds, and it's best when the rest of your team can actually combo into you. It's super good for setting up that wombo combo. The downside of doing this though is that if they dodge or flash your ultimate because you're doing it from range, you end up in the middle of the enemy team with no way out and you can get focused down and die. So if you choose to E in and save your ultimate, you're gonna be able to use your ult to escape or chase down people who dash or flash away from your initial E. But the downside is you'll miss out on the potential CC duration and potential ace that 2-second team-wide fear can bring. One thing you should note about engaging as well is that because your ultimate makes you unstoppable, you can negate a lot of CC while you're going in that maybe might interrupt your E, so just pay attention to that. Also, if you can't get a flank, you'll want to stack up your Q and conquer on the enemy front line while saving your E so that you can ult and kick an enemy carry towards you if they get too cocky and step forward. Oh, and I almost forgot. The most important part of teamfighting is Hecarim, spam Q the whole time. Never stop, just always Q. Doesn't matter if anyone's in range, just keep spamming it. Just keep hitting that Q button. As is tradition though in these videos, we're gonna give you a quick TLDR, so here it goes. Hecarim top lane is making a comeback due to 2 new setups, the Whirlib, aka just what pros are using, which is Trendy Force Death Dance, and then the Romanium, the challenger Hecarim / Renekton main who likes to go Ghost Ignite with Trendy Force into Frozen Heart, and then also Liandry's for better team fighting. For itemization, starting items are Corrupting Potion for both setups. The Whirlib full build is going to be Trendy Force, Death Dance, Starrock, Spearfistage, and Randuin's. The Romanium full build is Trendy Force, Frozen Heart, Spearfistage, Liandry's, and then Thornmail. For tier 2 boots, for either build, the most common ones are just Mercs or Tabis based on their lane matchup, and then they're bought quite early. For runes, both go Conquer, but Whirlib likes to take Inspiration secondary, while Romanium goes Sorcery. Ability max is Q, E, and then W. Whirlib will take Ignite and then TP for summoners, and Romanium takes Ignite Ghost. For power spikes, it's level 4, 6, 9, 13, and first 2 items, Trendy Force being the strongest. Good matchups are things like Aurelia, Yasuo, Aatrox, Ornn. Bad matchups, Kled, Darius, Wukong, Alawi. He doesn't actually have any combos because his Q does not interrupt auto attacks. For the laning phase, you want to keep the wave on your side of the map so you can run people down easier. Also, you're going to want to remember to charge your Q up on minions before all laning people. During the mid game, remember that you want to fight as often as possible, and during the downtime, you're just farming side lanes and pushing into the enemy jungle to steal neutral camps. Or you can steal your own junglers, who cares? Team fights, you're going to look to flank and then either R in for that huge fear on a group of people, or save it and it is E in so that you can use it to reposition. If you can't find a flank, hit the front line, get your stacks up, and then R insect the enemy carry if they get close. That's all I got though, so thank you for watching the video, and be sure to check out our other content on this channel as well as at Mobalytics.gg. I was your host, Adam Moriarty Isles, and may the new and old solo queue gods be with you.